Hi, my name is Audra Morrison, and I'm here today from the Career Success Center to talk to you about resumes and tips for your resume. The first tip I have for you today is to be precise and concise. An employer is only going to be looking at your resume for about 10 seconds or less, so you want to make sure that you get your message across early. You want all of your relevant experience and qualifications to be close to the top of the page so that the employer doesn't have to hunt for it to see if you're qualified for their job. Additionally, you want to make sure that your resume doesn't exceed 1 page in length, especially at the undergraduate level. Most of the time students aren't going to have enough experience to fill 2 full pages, but even if you do, always assume that the second page won't be seen because they're just going to be briefly skimming your document when they're putting you in the yes or no pile for the first time. Now we're going to take a look at a resume and then compare it to a job to see if it's a good fit. This resume we can see is an example of a communication student here at UNF working on their bachelor's degree in communication. We can also see that this student has some experience in their field. They've been a social media assistant at a department on campus where they were designing and creating posts for social media, and they were creating graphics along with working with other departments. This student also has some related courses that they've taken in the area that have given them some relevant knowledge and probably some experience as well. So let's see how their resume aligns with a job posting. This is a job for a social media coordinator position here in Jacksonville, Florida. We can see that for this position, they're requiring a bachelor's degree in communication, and they're also looking for 2 years of experience working with social media. So far, the previous resume looks like it's going to be a good fit. Now, there are some things listed on this job posting that weren't on the previous resume, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're disqualified from getting an interview. We can see that the employer is looking for social media analytics knowledge, so if that student had experience there, that would be something they could add to their resume, as well as experience with copy editing and copywriting and knowledge of Adobe Creative Suite. Those are things the student may or may not have, but if they do, they would be a good idea to add. Let's take a look at another job and see if we have a resume that fits with that job. So this is a job for a social worker, and we can see a description of the position and where the person will be working for this career, but we can also see some of the requirements that are listed in this area. For this position, licensure is required. So they want someone who's already received a license, and they're also looking for someone with a master's degree in social work with a couple years of experience. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our next resume and see if we'd be a good fit. So for this resume, we can see that this is a student who studied child psychology, and it looks like they only have a bachelor degree. So based on that job posting where they stated that they were looking for a master's degree, this candidate could still apply, but it wouldn't be uncommon if this person weren't called for an interview because they're not meeting that requirement that the job has stated they're looking for. So my next tip for you today is to use an effective format. There are several different types of formats and several ways that your format can be formatted regarding your font that you use, regarding any highlighting features that you may use, such as bolding, underline, italics, caps lock. So there's a lot you can do and in very many ways that you can customize your resume, but the format that you use should be strategic. You have a chronological resume, which is typically just going to be a list of all the jobs that you've had in reverse chronological order, meaning that your most recent job will be listed first, and then you'll work backwards from there. The next type is going to be a skills-based resume. This resume focuses more on your skills, either inside or outside of a job, but the attention is focused on the skills that you've gained throughout your academic career or throughout whatever jobs or careers that you are working in. A federal resume is a specific format that's going to be used for jobs that would require you to work for the federal government. And then a CV is a document that you would use if you were applying to a job doing research or within higher education. If you had any publications or things like that, those would typically go on a CV as well. Important and relevant information should be close to the top. As I mentioned before, that's important because the employers are looking at your resume for such a short amount of time. You want to make sure that you catch their attention early. Additionally, you want to make sure that your document has visual appeal. So regardless of which type of format or which style format you choose, you want to make sure that it looks nice and that you're using some highlighting features or some features that are going to catch the reader's eye. Next, you're going to want to focus on your knowledge and skills that qualify you for the position. So any information that's less related or doesn't transfer well into that field should be de-emphasized and usually put at the bottom of the resume where it's the last thing to be seen. If you're unsure of which format is best for you, give us a call or schedule an appointment and we can help you figure out the best format resume for your current situation. My last tip for you today is regarding the content, so the actual words and the descriptions that you're putting on your resume about your experience. For those descriptions, you're typically going to be focusing on any accomplishments that you had while you were working in your position, any skills or knowledge that you gained, and then when relevant, talking about some of the daily duties and tasks that you had to do as well. Depending on the job, the different areas that you focus on may vary. For instance, if you in college were a server or a waitress, you may not want to talk about your job duties of carrying food out to a table or entering the client's order into the computer system. Those may not be transferable into the next industry you go into, depending on what you're doing. But some of the skills you use, like customer service and interpersonal relationship building, may be very transferable into a different career. When thinking about accomplishments, you want to always try to quantify what you've done when possible. So if you can put a number to how many customers you served, or how many trainings you attended, or by what % you increased the customer satisfaction, those are great things to highlight on your resume as well. Finally, if you want to find out more about some other career tips that we have, any upcoming jobs or internships that we have going on, we're very active on our social media sites, and that's where we put all of our information first. So please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook to stay tuned for what we have next. Thank you so much.